You can look at the store closures and dismiss the details. You can see the layoffs and do the same. You can choose to only see government-provided statistics and ignore the remainder. But if you want the truth, you must connect the dots. Only those who are willing to look deeper will understand what's going on. Those who have their life attached to something will never allow their normalcy bias to be overridden. Shame though, so many will be hurt. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to look at the data related to the store closures, the layoffs. I'm going to give you the details of what's happening with people's debt. That is the true underlying reason why we are seeing what we have been in the past 10 years. Supposedly a booming economy, supposedly a booming market, and yet all of these statistics have been adding up, have been piling up, and in time we are going to have to face the music. Let's get into it. Walgreens said in a Securities and Exchange Commission filing on Tuesday that it would close 200 stores in the US after announcing plans to shutter 200 stores in the UK. This is a very serious event when you see these major retailers that are shutting down. And of course, you point to the retailers. It's always retailers. Well, that's because of Amazon. That's because of e-commerce. Well, hold on for just a minute. 26 Sears and Kmart stores are set to close in October. Company cannot rule out more closures this year. I don't know how these companies have more stores. I thought they closed literally thousands already. Here we are today with more of these stores closing down. Now, while most people will say, fine, good riddance, think about the people, number one, who work for these companies, as well as those individuals that work near these anchor stores that are no longer going to be able to do business simply because they were so important, so integral to that mall, to that plaza, the shopping center, whatever the case may be. This is important because it has a ripple effect, an indirect effect. It might not hit necessarily that month, that year, but it will have an impact and will slow down the economy as a whole. The less people that are employed in a geographic region, it's going to put a further burden on them. This is anywhere you look. Barney's New York is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, the latest retailer to buckle as shoppers move online. That's the excuse they're using. I'll tell you why that isn't the case. The iconic clothier, founded almost a century ago, will keep the doors open at its 10-story Madison Avenue store, but it secured $75 million in financing to pay employees and vendors as it seeks a buyer. They are trying to keep this open, but if they got into this position, they are going to find themselves on the streets regardless. That's just the way it is. The same thing with Sears, trying to bail the company out. It's bleeding out everywhere. It's hemorrhaging, and yet you're still trying to fix it. Look, unfortunately, for different reasons, each of these different retailers has a problem in one way, shape, or form. Maybe it's bad management. Maybe it's their problems with their supply chains. You know, it could be anything. However, when you see it the way it is, many times it can't be fixed. CVS slows store expansion plans, cuts pace by a third. So we had heard that CVS was going to do this maximum expansion. They were going out there and they were going to open these new stores. They were going to be integrated in with these different types of vendors, different types of applications for people that they can use, and not just about necessarily selling products. Well, this has now slowed down. You could see that they are still opening stores, yes. However, the pace of which cut by a third, and they are trying to basically slow this back because they know what's going on in the economy. They can see that. We'll see the actual total by the end of the year. Usually it's much less than what they initially believed. If you want to know the details about how many stores are opening, how many stores are closing, by the way, I bring this up in every video I do like this because I always see that some individuals don't actually watch the videos and they make silly comments. So this is for you. You can look at CoreSite.com. They track this. You get this snapshot every single week telling you how many store closures, how many store openings, and the details are right here. So far this year, US retailers have announced 7,567 store closures and 3,064 store openings, and that is much worse than we saw in 2018. We're looking at an increase that is on pace to beat anything we've ever seen before. So this is important to note. You can see the data for yourself. You don't have to go and look look at CNBC articles. You don't have to look at the newspaper. Just look at the actual detail that is tracked by Coresight themselves. So definitely take a look at their website, if not on a weekly basis, at least on a monthly basis, to see what's going on. Now, this is the US. However, if you look, India is right now suffering big time. Their central bank cutting rates. You could see that the auto sector crisis deepens around 200,000. I believe that term there means 100,000 jobs cut in the last 3 months. If my term is not correct, please correct me on that. However, you're looking at a major change that is going on in India right now, and it's just one more country. I did a video yesterday, I believe it was, showing you the different central banks and how they have started to cut interest rates, whether that's New Zealand, you've seen Australia do the same thing. Other central banks have all gone into this easing cycle, but we've been in that cycle for 10 years. Why in the world have all of these governments gone into this same policy? They are trying to do this because they're trying to stop the crisis from unfolding. It never finished. This is why I call it the financial crisis part 2 and not something new, simply because it is a continuation. They are trying to extend it, but they've been doing so since, let's say, 2007. They never really let it fail properly. If they had let it cleanse, if there was that economic detox that I referred to, well, then it would be healthy. I would say, look, there's a lot of companies out there, great investment potential, but they never let that happen. They tried to pump it up and create zombies. The next time around, we are going to have zombie countries. I don't know what the result of this is going to be, but it is not good, okay? This is actually a terrible instance that we are seeing right now, not just in one country. It's not just the United States. Look at Europe, look at Asia. They're all having to feel the burden right now. And if you're thinking it's all because of Amazon, that's right. Even though I showed you the car companies, even though I showed you basically every sector, you could look at all different types of industries. They're all doing worse than they were last year for the most part. And of course, this right here shows you what you need to know directly from the census.gov website, not just saying things, not just making things up, not just lifting things off the top of my head. This comes from their own data that they are tracking, estimated quarterly US retail e-commerce sales as a percent of the total quarterly retail sales as of the first quarter 2019. It's 10%. I want to note this. I'm going to bring on my highlighter to make it very clear for everybody. If you see right here, 10% of the total, you will see that for yourself. 10% of the total e-commerce sales. I don't know why people keep stressing this. Yes, of course, if you look at how much e-commerce takes up, it's growing every year. There is no denying that. Everybody knows that. However, the slowdown that we are seeing today is not because of Amazon. That is silly. That is becoming a meme, and I don't know why that is the case. Take a look at the actual data and see it for yourself. You could bend it one way or the other, say you're not including this, not including this, doesn't take for account on this and that. Whatever you want to look at, it's still a small percentage of the total. If you see Amazon themselves, I saw some data somewhere that said they have about 5% of the total. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but still 5% of the total retail sales being from Amazon, it just doesn't account for everything out there. We are seeing the global economic slowdown. We're seeing a US slowdown. And of course, this cannot be fixed by all central bank policies of printing a whole bunch of money. Not going to work. Let's move on to the second half of this video, okay, really quickly. Bankruptcy petitions for customers and businesses are on the rise. There was a 5% increase in the total bankruptcy filings in July 2019 from the previous month, okay? The data's here. If you want the information, definitely check this out. But essentially, just wanted to show you that people are in debt. People have a problem with their money. Now, you could say that, oh, this is because they don't know how to spend their money. They don't know how to save their money. It's their problem. Whatever you want to look at, that's fine. The end result is that a whole bunch of people do not have enough money to pay down their debt. That, of course, creates this burden. You have this going all impacting with the economy, and there's no other way to look at this information. It's there. It's in front of your face. Here you can see the percentage change in debt since 2003 by type. So we're comparing non-housing and housing. Now, while the housing has increased somewhat, you could see the non-housing debt that has increased dramatically since the financial crisis. There has been a marginal deleveraging that took place after the financial crisis. Auto loans, you could see credit cards, but ultimately that has skyrocketed ever since when you look at credit cards, auto loans, and of course, student debt. Now, I don't believe the student debt is necessarily just for the tuition fees. People use this for other things. Doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's more debt. So you could see all of this here. I have the charts charts just to look through very quickly. Average income and expenses percentage change over 3 decades, comparing household income, housing prices, personal healthcare expenditures, college tuition. Now, while the household income has gone up a slight amount, and this is not in real terms, of course, this is using their fake numbers, you compare that to the housing prices, which have gone astronomical, healthcare has gone into outer space, and of course, college tuition is there as well. Quarterly contribution to overall growth in assets and debt by wealth group. Who's making the money right now? The top 10%. And of course, the higher up you go, the more exaggerated it is. But essentially, although they do have massive amounts of debt in the top 10%, you could see that they also have a lot of assets. There's no denying that. However, when you see the comparison in the bottom 90%, it's really not so good. You could see the amount of debt is quite excessive and the assets are very, very small. Okay, looking at the last thing just before I finish off the video, I need to bring this to you every time. So this website here, dailyjobcuts.com, tracks all of the closings, the bankruptcies, the layoffs, and so on. Check that out, as well as coresight.com. That's all the data that you need to know. I'm going to end the video there. If you found it informative, hit that thumbs up button. When you are hitting this one button, you're supporting me. You're helping to push these videos higher up in the search rankings, so I do appreciate that very much. If you want the financial education that was left out of the school system intentionally so that you wouldn't be able to learn this, well then, read these 2 books. You'll have everything you need. Check it out at the link in the description. If you want the audiobook, that's available at themoneygps.com. This is a very important video. If you haven't seen it already, definitely click on it and I will see you over there.